In this video, we'll show you how to install a high-performance Rockford Fosgate audio system on this Harley-Davidson motorcycle. Welcome back. I'm Eric, and today we're going to install an HD9813SG-STAGE2 on this 2003 Street Glide. We'll get started by removing the seat using a number 2 Phillips and a 10mm socket to disconnect the battery negative. Now we're ready to remove the fairing. First, we'll install the service cover on the fender. We'll use a T27 Torx driver to remove 4 bolts from the fairing, 2 of which are located between the forks. Then we'll remove the 3 Torx that hold the visor in place. Now, it's best to have 2 people for this step, one to hold the fairing in position and the other to remove the screws. Once we pull down the fairing, we'll disconnect the headlight and remove it from the bike. Now we're ready to remove our speakers. We'll start by detaching the speaker wires from each one. Note that the white wire is positive and the black wire is negative. We'll use a 3/16 Allen driver to remove 1 bolt from the fairing support bracket. Then we'll switch to a T25 Torx to remove 3 screws from the speaker and carefully remove it. Once you're done, repeat the process on the other side. Now that that's done, we're ready to remove the factory radio. First, detach the OEM harness from the radio by lifting up on the tab. Then, remove the antenna. Detach any accessories that are mounted on the top of the radio. Then, using a long reach 3/16 Allen or L wrench, remove 2 screws from each side of the radio. Take note that there's an access hole that allows you to reach the front screw. Once you're done, carefully remove the radio by sliding it out from the back. Okay, now we're ready to install our new source unit. To get started, use a clean, slightly damp microfiber cloth to remove any dust around the fairing's opening. To make it easier, we suggest using a 3/16 Allen to remove 2 screws from the top of the radio bracket. Then, insert the radio at an angle into the rear bracket housing. Be careful with the front of the radio not to hit the gauges or catch anything around the rubberized dust shield. Slide the radio into the fairing opening, then slide the chassis down into place. Use the 3/16 Allen again to secure the radio using the existing 4 bolts and resecure the top 2 screws into the bracket. Once we're done, reconnect the OEM harness and antenna. Take note that we're not using the RCA output harness supplied with the radio, since we're using the high-level outputs. If you want to connect this plug, use a T10 Torx to open the access door and plug the harness with the catch prongs facing up until it clicks into place. Now we're ready to install our new speakers. The TMS5 SG speakers included in your kit contain replacement bezels, grills, and screws. Be sure to use this hardware that accommodates the slightly different mounting depth of the trim ring. Position the speaker with the logo facing down and the thick bezel facing up. Insert the 2 longer screws into the top of the speaker and secure them into place using a number 2 Phillips. Then, using a 3/16 Allen, secure the fairing support bracket back into place. Using the shorter screw, attach the bracket and finish securing the speaker. Now, reattach the speaker wires with white going to positive and black to negative. Once you're done, repeat the process on the opposite side. We want to take a moment to talk to you about the USB input on the radio that allows you to charge your phone, play music, and make software updates. Now you have several options. The first one is just leave the cable as is, but that will require you to remove the fairing if you need to make any software updates. Second option is zip tie the USB extension to the harness in between the forks. Now this isn't very convenient. A third option is replace the cigarette lighter with our USB and zip tie it to the handlebar, since the grommet actually fits perfectly in that hole. Now, we're going to show you a cool fourth option, which replaces the cigarette lighter with our universal USB and 3.5mm panel mount accessory. This optional adapter allows a convenient flush mount USB port to charge your mobile device, play your music through a USB drive, allow you to make software updates, and coolest of all, connect your non-Bluetooth audio devices into the radio's AUX input. This will give you direct access to all your music. Now that we have that done, we're ready to remove the gas tank. We'll start by disconnecting a harness and pulling the two breather lines in the back. Note that they may be zip tied underneath. Next, we'll disconnect the main gas line. Push up on the hose and while sliding the fitting upward, pull down on the gas line. Now be sure to have a shop rag handy to catch any excess fuel left in the line. Now on our motorcycle, there's also an equalizer hose on the front of the gas tank. We recommend draining the gas tank prior to detaching this hose, which we already did off camera. Place several shop rags underneath and cut off one of the clamps. Take note that you'll need a 5/16 hose clamp when we reassemble the bike. Once that's done, use a 5/8" socket to remove 2 bolts from the front of the gas tank, and then use a 1/2" socket to remove 1 bolt in the back. All right, now that we have access to the center channel, we're ready to install our power harness. First, unsnap the center channel cover. Then, take the power connector side of our harness and run it up the clutch side to the amplifier location. Now this will be mounted on top of the source unit. Then we'll finish routing the power and ground cables on the left side of the channel, making sure that we have enough slack to make our battery connections. Now we're ready to prep our amplifier for installation. We'll use the small L bracket, heatsink, and 2 flush mount screws from our amp mounting kit. Position the heatsink upside down with the heatsink fins facing you, and the L bracket with the Diamond R logo facing down. We'll use a 2mm Allen to secure 2 of the flush mount screws into the holes labeled 98 to 13 Street Glide. Before proceeding, be sure to remove the pre-installed power connector from the amp, since our harness already has one. We'll flip the assembly over and secure our amplifier in place using 4 button head screws using a 2.5mm Allen. Now, once we're done, we'll tune the amp. We do offer a free amp tuning guide that's available in the description of this video and through this kit's product details page at rockfordfosgate.com. Once we get the amp configured, we'll use a T10 Torx to remove 2 screws from the back of the source unit and secure the assembly to the top. Now we're ready to wire our amplifier. We'll take the input harness from our amp mounting kit and connect the cable labeled right side input to the right OEM terminals, and the harness labeled left side input to the left OEM terminals. Once you're done, connect the Molex end into the amplifier's front input. Now we'll switch over to the output harness. Now we'll connect the cable labeled right side output to the right speaker. Remember, red is positive and black is negative. Then connect the cable labeled left side output to the left speaker. Then go ahead and plug the MOLX into the amplifier's front output. Once you're done with that, plug the power connector into the amplifier, noting the blue turn-on wire is not used in this configuration. Now we're ready to make our battery connections, clean up our wiring, and reassemble everything. Now that we have the bike reassembled, we're ready to test and tune the system. You'll notice your bike came with extra brackets and harnesses. Now these are not needed for this bike, but are covered in other videos. Now we're ready to use the tuning guide that you downloaded earlier during the amplifier setup. This guide illustrates the tuning preset to use based on the speaker configuration of your motorcycle. Now the names of the presets may vary based on the software version of your source unit. You can always download the latest software at rockfordfosgate.com. So use the guide to select the proper preset. Once selected, the radio will take a few moments to load the desired tuning profile. As you can see, that install is pretty straightforward. However, if you prefer a professional do the install for you, we have a network of authorized Rockford Fosgate dealers that can be found on our website. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact our technical support. They can be reached Monday through Friday at 1-800-669-9899 or through live chat at the bottom of our website at rockfordfosgate.com. Until next time, I'm Eric. We'll see you again soon.